Hello everybody, my name is Talon, or Goplob if you prefer, and today I'm here to talk to you about Mind Space, a small Euro game about filling up your mind and what happens when it gets perhaps a little too full. You alright there, buddy? That was my entire editing budget. Please never expect something of that quality ever again. Thanks. Alright, first things first. What is Mindspace? Mindspace is a roll and write space management Euro game for 2 to 5 players in which you try and fit all of your thoughts, feelings, and emotions into your head. Each turn, a player rolls 5 differently colored dice to determine what shape their love, friendship, or straight up cash will be taking in their mind today. Players then take a look at the available shapes for them to draw and choose one to put on their brain card, carefully utilizing each shape in order to maximize their space and fit it as perfectly into each sector of the brain as possible. Unless you're like me, and then you create a small Swiss cheese of kind of every emotion and then fill it in with dark thoughts that you can purchase with sweet, sweet coins. Because occasionally, money does solve your problems. Each of the differently colored emotions that players can choose to write on their brain board actually scores a little bit differently too. The pink romance emotion, for example, it gets points for every shape that matches it of a different shape. Sorry, that was a little confusing. Let me just show you an example. So in this case, we have this pink shape and this blue shape, and they match. So the pink shape would earn a point for every space in that shape. Pretty simple, right? Each color scores a little bit differently too. For example, blue represents self-improvement. So instead of gaining points for every blue tile you take, instead you take less negative points, which is pretty nice. My favorite is the finances, which is green. It doesn't even get you points, it just gives you money. Let's actually read what it says. Money isn't the key to happiness, but it will make things easier. So true, board game, so true. This leads to some interesting choices, as most rounds you can only use one emotion and one shape. And this gets further complicated when we factor in goal cards. Goal cards are cards that have, well, goals on them. I'm starting to think this game's really self-explanatory. Goal cards have certain conditions on them when met by one of the players, give you an additional boost of points. The first player to complete a goal card always gets more points than the other players, so it's usually kind of a race to get these completed before the rest of your players can get there. Also, side note, the camera shots that you are currently seeing took me forever to get, so please pretend they're cinematic. My darn shaky hands made it impossible to get any smooth camera angles. Anyways, I think it's almost time for a bit of history. A bit of history. Oh, yes. Ah, hello there. If you've been here before, welcome back. If not, my name is Sir Goatblob Hawkins. No relation. Anyways, I'm here to talk to you about this board game here, Mindspace. Published by All Play Games, Mindspace was first funded on Kickstarter in March of 2023. It was designed by Nao Shimamura, and its beautiful art was done by Giuliani Greep. If I mispronounced those names, I apologize. I wish I could pronounce them better. Anyways, it seems as if that's all I'm here to tell you today. But make sure to visit again soon, young lads. I won't be around forever, you know. Until next time, this has been a bit of history. A bit of history. Oh, yes. Thank you, Goplob. Anyways, now that we have a basic understanding of Mindspace, it's time to discuss, is it any good? Alright, first off, let's talk about the theme of Mindspace, which is pretty spectacular. Let's be honest here. A space management game in which you fill up your own brain with different emotions is pretty novel. I've never heard of anything like that before. And the way the different emotions actually score fits the theme so well. Such as blue, which represents self-improvement and growth. The less of it you have, the more points you lose at the end of the game. Which kind of shows that when you don't grow and self-improve, you suffer. Which doubles as awareness and just a cool way of scoring the self-improvement category. I really like that aspect of the game. The goal cards also manage to fit the theme really, really well. The things that they ask you to do always go with what the card is named. For instance, my personal favorite is Stressed Out, which asks you to fill out the 4 corners of your brain card, which shows that being stressed out really does feel like you're being pulled a whole bunch of different ways by your emotions or finances or whatever it is. I just think it's a really cool way of implementing the goal cards to make them feel like they go with the game really, really well. Next, let's talk about the components for Mindspace, which are really, really great. Player boards, strong. Card art, pretty. Dice, smooth. Markers, some barely mark and others are impossible to erase. Wait. The markers are the only real problem I had with the game's components. But they're kind of a major problem. Specifically the purple marker, after like the 3rd or 4th game, it was already like literally dying. Go on, without me. No! What am I doing with my life? And that wasn't the only marker with that problem, that's just the like first one that I could remember being really, really bad. The pink marker, on the other hand, became impossible to erase. Like, rather than erasing it whenever you wiped it, it would just kind of like run around your brain board. So it felt like you were hurting it off of it rather than actually being able to erase it, which is pretty annoying if you don't want to spend your entire life trying to erase the pink marker. What's not annoying, though, is actually learning how to play Mindspace. The entire rulebook is 3 pages big. Nope, 4 pages big, sorry. It takes all of 5 minutes to learn, maximum, and the only point that could ever get even remotely confusing is learning how to score all the different emotions in the game. The back of the rulebook solves this, though, by showing every single scenario for scoring that you could ever run into, so the confusion's always short-lived, just a quick, oh, let me grab the back of the rulebook, and then the confusion's over with. Which is a big blessing when it comes to board games. Usually it takes like 20 minutes to learn to play, and then you finally get to play after someone's read the rulebook 14 times to you. But that doesn't happen with Mindspace. It's a pretty quick learn. Don't get me wrong though, just because Mindspace is pretty quick to learn doesn't mean it's a shallow gaming experience. Because all the emotions score a bit differently and there's so many different factors to think about, the strategy's pretty deep. Sometimes you'll run into experiences where you're like, oh, should I take a blue here so I lose less points later? Or a green so I can get extra money to spend? These kind of questions pop up all over the place when you're playing, and it allows for quite a bit of replayability as you can always try a new strategy. Are you going to race to complete the goals first, or do you want to make sure all of your sections are filled for extra points? Overall, it makes the game feel pretty actually deep rather than being shallow like you'd think just looking at the rulebook. Speaking of game feel, Mindspace, because it's a Euro game, often feels pretty relaxing. At least when you're playing with 3 players or less, it does. Because there are only 3 goal cards per game that you're playing, if you're playing with 4 or 5 players, it actually can get a little bit intense as you all race to complete the goal card and get the extra points for being the first player to complete it. Yes! I completed the Overachiever goal card first! I am so much better than you guys! Sorry. Overall, this doesn't really usually happen though. Mindspace is more of a relaxing experience rather than being some hyper-intense competitive game. There are no big surprises, there's no big reveals, there's not really anything big going on at all. It's just a small, relaxing game about filling up your own mind. Which I think is exactly what Mindspace is trying to do. It's not trying to surprise you, it's not trying to make you feel some aha or gasp moment. It's just supposed to be a bit of relaxing fun. And for a tiny game, it's pretty strategic and full of depth. So I think it does a pretty good job at what it's trying to set out to do. But if you're looking for a more surprising or exciting experience, perhaps this game isn't for you. Either way, I'm Talon, or Goatblob if you prefer. Thank you for watching, like and subscribe. Bye-bye.
Bye.